Well, hello. We're now on chapter 19 of the Curatage Ghost. And Luka was fed up. Sir Max, after high hopes, had turned into a big disappointment. He wasn't interested in sword fighting, didn't tell any scary stories, could no longer walk through walls, and in fact was now just like any other boring adult. It was nearly time to go home at the end of the holiday, and he longed for one more really exciting adventure, despite his really scary experiences last time. Boys are daft that way. He was developing this idea that the old chest with Katherine's bones in it would have some sort of supernatural secret left in it. He'd seen Grandad take out the crown for Yaya, and now knew where it was hidden. He crept into the wardrobe with his torch and climbed into the now not-so-secret cupboard. He could hear a lot of strange yelling coming from downstairs, but took no notice as he opened the old chest lid. Like all boys, he was looking for a secret treasure map. He lifted out the John Lewis bag containing Katherine's bones and put them behind him into the wardrobe, took out the banner and began scouring the trunk for false bottoms, secret compartments and the like. He noticed that the shouting from downstairs seemed to have stopped, and a sensation of stillness came over him. Cramped as he was in that small dark space with his flashlight, failing to highlight anything worth looking at. Something? Or was it someone told him to turn his torch off and just to listen? So he did. He felt a breath on the back of his neck. Just a draught, wasn't it? The musty, slightly unpleasant smell of the old chest turned into rose petals. The lid in the darkness seemed to take on a reflective element. Something seemed to be appearing dimly behind him. Shutting his eyes did not stop the image slowly forming. There was a rustling, clicking, clunking noise coming from the wardrobe behind him. Luka didn't want to turn round. He was very afraid of what he might see. Before the holiday, he had been studying The Rime of the Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor Coleridge at school, and a couple of verses came to mind. Luka, like one that on a lonesome road doth walk in fear and dread, and having once turned round walks on and no more turns his head, because he knows a frightful fiend doth close behind him tread. He tried very hard not to look behind, but he couldn't stop himself. The second verse came horribly true in his mind. Her lips were red, her looks were free, her locks were yellow as gold, her skin was as white as leprosy. The nightmare life in death was she, who thicks man's blood with cold. He scrunched up his eyes and tried to roll into a sort of ball, a bit like a frightened hedgehog. Only this time, instead of prickles pointing outwards, something was pricking him. Ow! Ow! Stop it! Stop it! He shouted. It felt like a sharp, long pin, probably because that's exactly what it was. After about 6 or 7 prods, he couldn't stand it anymore and opened his eyes and turned round. There was a skeleton stabbing him with an old hat pin from Grandma's box by the bed. He met the skeleton. Well, not quite eye to eye socket, really. Remember, it was pitch black, but the skeleton was still visible. He was trying to scream, but no sound was coming, like in those sort of nightmares we all have. This was a real nightmare. He was afraid the skeleton would stab him somewhere really vital. The skeleton was changing in front of him. taking on form. Her lips were red, her locks were yellow, her skin was white as leprosy. He tried to scream again. This time he managed it, loud, long, and very high-pitched. The ghost seemed very cross and snarling. Luka kept on screaming. The wardroom door opened and light rushed in. "Ghostbusters!" yelled Esme and Yaya squirted Luka's Batman water pistol into the wardrobe. This time the ghost screamed. Pretty blood-curdling, really. Luka turned his torch on the ghost. Yaya got a good shot in on the head. "My hair!" wailed the very female ghost. "Well, stop frightening Luka, and we will stop spraying you." This seemed to be too much for the Phantom. This lady was obviously not used to negotiation or being told what to do by a bunch of children. She turned to glare at Yaya, who in turn got a full squeeze off right onto her nose. The water ran down a very annoyed Lady Catherine Beaufort's chin and down her partially exposed chest. She tried to cover her bosom, pricked herself with the pin, and let out another shriek of pain, or more likely frustration. Judy appeared behind the girls, just outside the wardrobe. "What on earth's going on now, for heaven's sake? It's like getting the ghost train at the fairground." She pushed in front of Esme and pulled Yaya back, who was trying to get another water pistol shot off. She was now face to face with one wet, cross, and pretty solid-looking lady. Judy put her hand out to shake hands. "We've not been introduced. I'm Judy Tate, mistress of the house, and I believe you are Lady Catherine Beaufort. You're very welcome, but I would be grateful if you could keep your voice down." Catherine looked at Judy's hand. Judy wondered if Tudor ladies shook hands. As it happened, this one didn't. Though she narrowed her eyes and backed away, she was not quite solid and half disappeared into the cupboard wall. She turned in a sitting Luka's direction. There was the sound of a hat pin dropping, and she enveloped Luka like a mist and was gone. Unfortunately, so was Luka. End of chapter 19 of The Curatage Ghost. Bye!